Project Zomboid is a game where you survive the zombie apocalypse through stealth, strategy, and cunning, or die trying. Mostly, you die trying. This is how you died, after all. Today, we're visiting the Louisville Quarantine Zone, but not the burnt-out husk you may be familiar with. Today, I'm using a mod that revitalizes and transforms the area into something far more playable. Our intrepid protagonist is Barry Hinkle, and yes, I did randomly generate that name. He's glorious, isn't he? He had two separate predecessors, but suffice to say, their stories didn't end well.
Dang it! God! Shit! No! Bitch! Shit! No! Damn it! Fucking God! Fuck! Stupid! God damn it! Come on, man! Fucking God! Fuck! No! What? God! No! Fucking God! Whatever!
Oh.
No! Fuck! No! Fuck! Stupid! No! Ah! What the fuck? Oh! For fuck's sake! Fucking come on! No! Don't fucking jump at me, you piece of shit! I'll fucking stab your parents!
With 2 past failures under my belt and a wealth of knowledge yet to be found, I set myself a simple goal: survive a week in the quarantine zone. A small, yet reasonable goal for a rather inexperienced player like myself. Like the past 2 runs, Barry spawned in the same makeshift infirmary sitting in the trailer park. It's already mostly barricaded, letting it serve as a default base of operations against the Walking Dead. There's a small kitchen, and a couple beds too, so it'd be best to use this for the time being. New in Build 42 is the ability to make sling bags out of sheets, roughly the same size as a regular satchel as of recording, which we did as soon as we could find a sheet. Also in Build 42 is a gun added to any starting character's inventory, which we did our best to get rid of, mostly by dumping it on the floor. Then we went about looting everything we could find nearby, sneaking outside to search through the dumpsters. The very first weapon we managed to find was a worn-out hockey stick, less than ideal given the circumstances, but it's what we had. After searching through the military tent behind the infirmary, we encountered our first zombie. It went down rather easily, and so did the second and the third, but killing zombies makes noise, which draws more to the sound, and when you kill those zombies, even more appear. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, a positive feedback loop. At the very least, we found a digital watch on one of them after our initial wave, which was good. I'd been hoping to find one to keep track of the passing days. Still, more were coming, drawn to the noise and commotion. Barry was already in pain, and the bodies were sticking out the place to boot. Still, there was only one way, and that way was forward, or onward, really. Zombies had begun to assault our safe haven, so we got out our mostly brand new tire iron and began the culling. By afternoon, the lawn was littered with corpses already rotted. When zombies broke through the chain-link gate, some metal pipes get dropped. I was going to use this to my advantage, since Barry's particular skill set left him quite good with short, blunt weapons. These zombies were still coming after all, eager to make us one of their own. Finally, we started exploring the nearby trailers, and the very first one had a corpse with 4 separate guns. Most notably a shotgun, with an entire box of shotgun shells. This would come in handy later, though perhaps not in a way any of us would expect. From there, we pushed east, clearing out zombies with surprising speed. But it was getting late, and Barry was becoming winded. In my eagerness, I had forgotten the most important rule: always check your 6. Barry took a bite to the upper arm, and although not all hope was lost as I had the antibodies mod installed, I was afraid. Afraid of the slow death that the bite might bring, rather than the quick one brought on in a fight. After dispatching a few more zombies, we returned to the infirmary, disinfected our wounds, and cleaned ourselves. Then we slept. A fitful, restless night filled with pain and hunger and zombies, rudely knocking at the door and everything. By dawn, Barry was starving. As we scoured the nearby trailers for food, one of them oh so conveniently had a house alarm. After dealing with the swarms drawn by the noise, we finally found him a solid meal and explored several more of the trailers. Despite my best efforts though, Barry's tension had reached an all-time high. His body temperature was increasing, and his core health decreasing. It seemed that our run was over. But we weren't going down without a fight. Remember that shotgun we found earlier? Yeah, it was time to go out with a bang, not a whimper and a scream. As gunshots echoed into the foggy morning, more zombies were drawn towards us. This time, I wasn't afraid. To me, death was already certain, so why be scared if you're going out either way? And then, just as we ran out of ammo, I realized something. Barry's tension had dissipated over the course of the day, yet I'd kicked over the hornet's nest and the dead were still coming for us. The battle wasn't over yet. We picked the zombies off one by one, but Barry's fever still hadn't ceased, and he was still taking health damage. Now my confidence wavered. Had we actually beaten the Nox infection? Or was it just lulling me into a false sense of security? Almost as if mocking my hesitation, Barry stopped taking damage. Then his fever disappeared, and his tension from the infection vanished entirely. He hadn't been taken by the bite, and he hadn't been killed during the fights either. Though the trailer park was littered with even more bodies than before, our day was not over. Zombies moved rather slowly, presumably stiff with rigor mortis, so the ones drawn by the shotgun were still trickling in. But finally, we were able to crawl back into the infirmary and sleep, putting up a curtain on the front door to block the light. We'd survived this day, and I'd hoped to survive at least a few more. Day 3 dawned quietly compared to the first two. I didn't even see my first zombie until after 9 in the morning. Coming from the previous day, cleaning out the rest of the trailer park was child's play, almost laughably easy. And after that, it was time to sit down and finally plan for once. We organized what we'd gathered from the trailers and began marking on the map. There was a bunch of impassable fences around the quarantine zone, and they made my life both easier and harder. Easier since nothing from the outside could easily get in. Harder because the same was true for me. My resources were therefore limited to what I could find within the quarantine zone, and the trailer park was running out. Food was the most immediate pressing issue, since it wasn't the most abundant in the first place. Water would run out sooner or later, though, after the automatic shut-off, and it would be much harder to cook food without electricity. Day 4 came with more zombies from the eastern gate, one of which came with some scissors. So we gave Barry a shave and a haircut, which must have been rather nice given the situation he was currently stuck in. Creature comforts really can make you feel like a whole person again, rather than someone just trying to survive. Afterward, we headed west towards the town, which was undoubtedly overrun. Even before we entered, we could see them swarming the watchtower. Although we managed to dispatch several without issue, I knew there would be more. The open space ironically made me nervous. I'd become so used to the trailer park, knowing every nook and cranny, everywhere a zombie could hide. This open space left my back exposed, risk coming from every direction. So I spent the rest of the day in the trailer park, removing glass from broken windows and refusing to admit that I was hiding. Day 4 bled into Day 5. The rain of the past 2 days continued, stronger than before. This time, we headed west into the town and managed to properly explore. We cleared one house and then found a dead sow on the side of the road, presumably from the nearby wreck and not just randomly. We took her home, butchered her up, and quite proudly sat on what felt like pounds of cooked pork for our efforts. Barry was still a slow healer after all and needed the nutrition to heal from that bite. We returned to town and cleared out another house, or tried to, anyways. I guess there must have been some kind of family reunion going on, given how many zombies came out of the damn thing. But with each one killed, 2 more seemed to take their place, and it was getting late. We had no choice but to retreat. The rest of the week passed much the same. For every zombie we killed, more would appear. And, well, I could tell you, but it'd be so much better if I showed you, right? And before I'd even realized, a full week had passed. We'd survived far past our first goal, and it was time to make another. Emboldened by my victories over the week, I considered my options. This was thus far the longest I'd ever survived in a single run, and by far the most zombies I'd ever killed. Could Barry survive a full month in the quarantine zone? My hopes were high, but it would be wise to remain cautious, of course. We began the week by checking out the town's gas station, grabbing some new clothes and a hiking backpack. After depositing the loot back at base, I decided to make a pile of zomboids to try and burn the bodies. But that would require fuel, so I'd hold off for a little while. Then we headed to the pizza place in town, clearing it of various zombies. Parked outside was even a car in decent condition, and the key was on the ground right next to it. This was practically worth its weight in gold, except for the fact that gold was now worthless. In the middle of town was a service building of some kind. It might have also been a public library, since it had a decent amount of skill books laying around inside. Most were too high level for Barry, but we took them with us anyways. Just east of the gas station was a tiny strip mall, consisting of a pharmacy, a bakery, and a restaurant. In dire need of food, we checked out the restaurant first. Thankfully, most of it was refrigerated and therefore still fresh. The bakery wasn't so lucky, with all the pastries on display rotten. Finally, we came to the pharmacy, where we found a wealth of pills, including antibiotics, but sadly no bandages, and one measly alcohol wipe. Still, it was better than nothing. Outside, one zombie appeared right after another. It seemed like a miniature horde was gathering, and I still had daylight to burn. We returned once more to the infirmary, finding out the water had finally shut off on day 11. Unfortunate, true, but at least we had options now. Next, we searched the police station, finding nothing of use. It was really just a checkpoint and nothing else. We cleared out the last of the McMansions and ventured into the nearby church, which also didn't have much of use. There was, however, a small military checkpoint in the middle of town, blocking itself off with wire fences. Many of the gates had already been broken, and we had to draw the zombies out if we wanted to make it safe. Sadly, even this didn't help much. The most it had was valuable but perishable food. There wasn't a single weapon in sight. The following day, we cleared out a liquor store, which was joined with a bakery on the other side. That one suffered the same fate as the first, with most of its product rotting away. With a few more houses cleared, it was just about time to execute our plan to burn those bodies, and proceeded to set Barry on fire. He's fine though, right, Barry? Tell him you're fine. See? He's fine. However, being burned on the thigh left Barry's movement speed rather impaired, and thus the rest of the week was spent recovering. And here's the automatic power shut-off. Lovely. Thankfully, we'd found a flashlight at some point, so at least we weren't fumbling around completely in the dark. We'd have to keep the front door window open, though, just to be safe. At least we had a generator out back, but barely hardly knew how to run one. Our days were spent wandering around the trailer park, looking for little odds and ends we'd missed, reading various items that came in Build 42, and exercising. We even relocated a charcoal barbecue and crafted a few items before Barry's leg finally healed. Afterward, we found and relocated an extra car to the trailer park, or at least on the road outside of it. The rest of the week was spent on other miscellaneous tasks, like repairing clothes, practicing mechanics, and other such things. Though I did dip into town for a hunt at the end of the week. Then week 4 burst in with a house alarm, drawing out just about every single zombie in town. There was only one thing we could do. Fight. We looted the houses as we came across them, and I must have stumbled across some shotgun shells at some point, since I have evidence of Barry shooting said shotgun, but I couldn't find where the hell we picked them up. We did find another handgun in the Western Military Checkpoint all the way across town, plus some ammo to go with it. Handy enough, I suppose. With the town now as secure as I could make it, and looted for all it's worth, we could only go east, unless we wanted to leave the relative safety of the quarantine zone. That seemed a little too easy to me. This world wasn't made for ease. This world was, of course, infested with zombies. Clearing the road out east took a while, but we found the eastern checkpoint pretty easily. It even had the lotted generator magazine, which is incredibly useful now that the power was out. It also contained ammo aplenty, which we used to shoot at zombies through the wire fence, hoping to increase our aiming skill. It didn't seem to do all that much though. Bit of a shame to waste so much ammo. The weather worsened through the week. At some point we had located another van's keys, using it to transport generators back and forth. During a heavy storm, we powered the gas station and fueled the cars up, eager to explore more along the road. When the rain had lightened, we headed further east, only to meet a horde beyond our imagining. This fight would not be an easy one. There were far too many, and so Barry and I had to retreat. At least we had a getaway car. Not to mention he'd been bitten right in the stomach early on. I was worried, but not so much as I had been before. Despite being remarkably sickly, Barry was stronger than he looked. When he finally broke through the infection on his 28th day, we decided to celebrate. by taking out a swarm at the eastern checkpoint. From there, we escaped north into the Louisville area proper, passing through a refugee camp and then up to a small corner of suburbia. Then we hit a stop sign, which quite literally stopped the car. It turns out that even if you are licensed to drive in real life, it does not mean you are licensed to drive in a video game. We escaped before the zomboids could swarm the vehicle, passing around buildings and through thickets to try and lose them. We looted a few houses, but it was getting dark, and there was no way we could go back safely at night. So we set up a temporary base in one of the homes on the very edge and slept very, very lightly. Week 5 dawned with Barry stranded, starving, and suffering from overload. Forced to travel on foot, he became winded easier than ever before. He even started taking direct damage from the strain. Somehow we managed to bash a rabbit to death, and as we arrived in a small camp at the eastern checkpoint, we were able to butcher and cook it. It has a rather surprising amount of nutrition, actually. We practiced our shooting some more, and found another car to replace our last one. I wanted to be conservative with the van, using it to haul big and heavy items as needed, and it would come in handy later if we decided to move out of the infirmary. Afterward, we headed back east, past the checkpoint, and towards the end of the road. Zombies still swarmed the tent, so I need a more conservative approach. As we managed to delve deeper into the camp, it was clear that there were too many zombies for me to handle all at once. There were enough that Barry was nearly dragged down to his death, and there were more just beyond a fragile wire fence. Instead, we headed west again towards the military village. Unfortunately, the road was blocked by wreckage, so we couldn't drive straight through. As I approached, I realized that this too was a challenge in and of itself. I had no way of dealing with this on my own, much less with depleting weapons. Hemmed in on both sides, we broke northward, finding a small farm just to the east of the refugee camp that we took an immediate shine to. Something about it just made me feel right at home, even though there were zombies in the closet. We explored just a little bit more, finding a dilapidated shed nearby. Then we found some chickens, one of which I slaughtered to cook at home, and then some sheep, which I put in a livestock zone in hopes of keeping them from wandering off too far. It looked like I had a decent making of a farm already, and all I had to do was move out of the infirmary. We found another farm to loot, or maybe just a series of houses out in the country. On the way back, the car suddenly gave out in the middle of the road, leaving us to bum rush to the refugee camp and its valuable tents. After we made it back to the infirmary, we sorted all of our loot and began loading up the van. We found another working car and brought it back fuel for the one stuck on the road. The new car went to the farm, while the old one ferried us through town, looking for any last bits of loot we'd missed. After looting another farm across the highway, we moved some of the old burned-up wrecks out of the way and went home. And then I crashed the car directly into the fence at the first watchtower into town, and it shat its metaphorical pants in the process. Ah well, at least we still had that car at the pizza place. We even had a battery charger for its lackluster battery. And then, of course, I crashed that car after a looting run. Like I said, folks, just because you can drive in real life doesn't mean you can drive in video games. The week ended with us moping back to the trailer park on foot, ready to make the move to our new farm. Finally, after a week of preparation, we were finally ready. Barry and I drove the van down to the farm and began to set it up, putting curtains on the windows, checking for stray zombies, and offloading supplies. I wanted to barricade it too, but there was only one place I knew where we could find supplies. Even after checking out nearby farms, we couldn't find what we needed. In the corner of suburban Louisville we'd explored earlier, there was a hardware store we passed by again and again. With my mind set, we headed towards the shop, unknowing of what laid in wait. Blood could only whet our thirst. Eager for loot, I was ready to get this over with, and confident that our abilities could outmatch any number of zombies in our path. We shouted to draw more out, away from the store and towards the empty field. We dipped into the shop to try and grab something, anything. I glimpsed a few things that would be useful. A fishing line, some seeds, some more pipes and rods for weapons. Our escape was just a foot away, and the zombies were closing in behind us. But I struggled with my keyboard to escape through the window. And by then, it was too late for Barry. He stumbled, fell, and was embraced by the swarm waiting for him. His scream of pain and horror was matched only by my own.
No, Barry, no! No!
As I sit here now, writing this script, months after it happened, I wonder how I could have helped Barry Hinkle survive just a little longer. Maybe if I had been more cautious, drawing the zombies out into the field to kill them slowly. If I had managed to make that exit smoother, maybe, somehow, he would have survived, making it past the second, third, fourth month. But this is not something we will get to know. This is the end of days. There is no chance of survival, and this is how Barry Hinkle died. Maybe someday I will return to the quarantine zone with a fresh face and a new start. Maybe after a few more updates come to Build 42. I don't think I'd mind it, bringing another character into my vast cast. But for now, I'm happy with where this story ended, even if it did make me sad in brand new ways. If you did enjoy this video, please consider liking and maybe even subscribing. It feeds the algorithm. And if you have ideas for other challenges, you can suggest them in a comment down below. Either way, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.